Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Lewiński. With 99.9% of all votes from yesterday's parliamentary elections counted, the pro-European forces emerged victorious, securing enough votes to form a majority government. Our Balkans correspondent Paweł Trzaskowski is on site in Moldova's capital, Chisinau. Paweł, what did these results mean for Moldova's future?
Well, Jonasz, most probably rapid EU integration, maybe even in 3 years. The pro-European camp has secured a decisive victory over pro-Russian forces, something that is already being acknowledged across Europe. Please listen.
It took real courage of the Moldovan nation and Maia Sandu personally to win this election. Not only did you save democracy and kept the European course, but you have also stopped Russia in its attempts to take control over the whole region. A good lesson for us all.
Maia Sandu's Party of Action and Solidarity secured enough votes to be able to form an independent government, as you rightly mentioned. Therefore, they repeated their results from 4 years ago, when they also won by a landslide. And since then, they managed to keep the country on a steady path towards joining the European Union. But what's the most surprising about the results of yesterday's election is the scale, the size of defeat of the pro-Russian forces. An indication that the European model is still attractive for the countries in the region. That was something that our guest at TVP World Talks discussed today. Please listen.
It shows that Moldovans do believe that PAS and the European direction, so to speak, still bears promise. It shows that the average Moldovan still believes that there is a useful path for them to go towards Europe, and that's highly encouraging.
The EU helped Moldova significantly to stay on its pro-European course. At the beginning of this year, a major aid package of almost €2 billion was promised to be sent to Moldova. Jonasz, back to you.
Paweł Trzaskowski there with the latest update from Moldovan elections, coming to us straight from Chisinau. Paweł, thank you very much for being here with us. And now we're moving on to our next story. The United States is considering allowing the sale of long-range Tomahawk missiles to Europe for transfer to Ukraine. President Donald Trump is expected to make the final decision on the matter.
You now have the Europeans buying weaponry from the United States as opposed to us giving it. And you asked this question about Tomahawks. It's something the president's going to make the final determination on. What the president is going to do is what's in the best interest of the United States of America. That's the driving light between his foreign policy decisions, between his defense policy decisions, and that will be the same heuristic that we apply to how we answer this question about Tomahawks. I'll let the president speak to it, but I know that we're having conversations this very minute about that issue.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is using Shadow Fleet vessels to launch and operate drones against European countries. Zelensky has urged the European Union to impose new sanctions on Russia and close the Baltic Sea to Russian tankers.
This week, we expect decisions from Europe on additional pressure against Russia. At the very least, a new sanctions package, the 19th. It is especially important that sanctions hit painfully at Russia's energy trade and the entire infrastructure of its tanker fleet. Intelligence now indicates that the Russians are using tankers to launch and operate drones against European countries. This is yet more evidence of why the Baltic Sea and other seas must be closed to Russian tankers, at the very least to the Shadow Fleet.
Now, Denmark is banning civilian drone flights as Copenhagen prepares to host European leaders over the coming week. The move follows a series of drone incidents across the country, forcing the closures of several Danish airports and triggering alarm due to military base flyovers.
After more unidentified drones were seen in Denmark and Norway on Saturday, Denmark announced the introduction of a nationwide ban on civilian drone flights.
We cannot allow foreign drones to cause uncertainty and disruption in society, as we've experienced recently. Denmark will host EU leaders next week. We must therefore focus particularly on safety.
The ban will be in effect from Monday to Friday and is meant to ensure the safety of Wednesday's EU summit in Copenhagen. This week, Copenhagen Airport, the Nordic region's busiest, was forced to close several times due to drone sightings. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said on Friday that his country has no plans to invoke NATO's Article 4 clause, but is taking the matter seriously.
What we're experiencing in Denmark and in other European countries is a wake-up call, just like the Ukraine war was in terms of Europe taking care of its defense.
Drones were also spotted in Trondheim in central Norway, hovering over Orland Military Airport, where Norwegian F-35s are stationed. Police continue to investigate. Over the weekend, Andrius Kubilius, European Commissioner for Defense and Space, met with other defense leaders in Helsinki, Finland. He says that EU states see an anti-drone wall as an immediate priority.
Russia is testing the EU and NATO, and our response must be firm, united and immediate. And at today's meeting we agreed to move from, let's say, discussions to concrete actions.
After the Berlin airport also closed recently due to drones, the German army was put on heightened alert and is now holding drills for drone defense.
We have an urban space here, and when it comes to drones, they have to be dealt with differently here than in open spaces and rural areas.
The German government, after months of deliberation, is considering allowing the German armed forces to shoot down drones under certain conditions.
It involves tracking down drones, intercepting drones, and shooting drones down. These are the basics we're talking about when we reposition ourselves for drone defense. An urgently needed project that is on its way.
Following the news of multiple drone incursions across Europe, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who, among all European leaders, has the most experience with drone attacks, was asked if NATO and the EU so far have had a weak reaction.
I think yes. Weak reaction. So that's why he continued with other countries. So you agree with President Trump that NATO members should just shoot down the drones, shoot down the Russian jets? They had to shoot down everything.
For TVP World, Randy Potts.
Speaking to World News tonight on TVP World, European Commissioner for Defense and Space, Andrius Kubilius, highlighted that Ukraine will play a crucial role in supporting Europe's drone wall project, noting that talks with Kiev are already underway.
I would say that what is important for us not to try to invent the wheel. It would be very important for us to ask our Ukrainian friends to help us. If till now we were usually coming with our assistance to Ukraine, and we were helping Ukraine to develop their own defense capabilities, now we need to ask Ukrainians to help us really to develop those capabilities which they have. How to organize, how to build, and what is needed to be built. That is what we need to do together with Ukrainians. That is why it was very good that in our conversation with all the regional ministers, we had also participation of Ukrainian Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Hungary of spying on border areas. The allegation has provoked a fierce response from Hungary's top political brass, marking a further escalation in ties between the two countries.
Relations between Ukraine and Hungary are worsening with each passing month. Earlier this week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced a violation of his country's airspace.
Our military recorded drones, and they were reconnaissance drones. Preliminary assessments suggest they may have been conducting reconnaissance on the industrial potential of Ukraine's border areas.
Shortly after the shocking revelation, Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó replied to Zelensky on social media platform X.
President Zelensky is losing his mind to his anti-Hungarian obsession. He's now starting to see things that aren't there.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha joined the discussion, presenting evidence, a map showing the exact route of the unmanned aircraft incursion.
Our armed forces have gathered all of the necessary evidence, and we are still waiting for Hungary to explain what this object did in our airspace.
There is a very, very obvious and clear Hungarian denial. It could happen that it's a private or Russian agent of drones. There are many agents, so-called diplomats and covert agents are in Hungary.
Tensions between the nations have escalated sharply in recent months. Budapest persists in blocking Ukraine's EU integration path. Kiev has also detained Hungarian spies. The situation reached a particularly low point when Ukrainian forces targeted the Druzhba oil pipeline, which supplies Russian energy to Hungary. In response to the attack, Hungary blocked Robert Provdi, a key Ukrainian drone commander with Hungarian roots, from entering the country, while Ukraine banned 3 high-ranking Hungarian military officials. Many experts believe that the authorities in Hungary, including Prime Minister Viktor Orban, are using Ukraine as a political tool to influence the public and weaken the opposition ahead of next year's general elections.
If you look at the Hungarian state propaganda, it's completely repeating everything what's the Kremlin saying about Ukraine.
The latest polls ahead of Hungary's parliamentary election show a tight race. Leading currently are the anti-European Fidesz party of Prime Minister Viktor Orban and the pro-European party Tisza of Peter Magyar. Magyar has been a harsh critic of the incumbent Orban government, accusing it of corruption and weakening the state. With elections scheduled for April 2026, Orban is likely to face his most competitive race since coming to power in 2010. For TVP World, Anastasia Yanchenko.
In Prague, thousands took to the streets this weekend to rally in support of pro-Europe and pro-Ukraine parties ahead of next Friday's parliamentary election. Opinion polls in the Czech Republic currently show the right-wing ANO party in the lead. Crowds packed the old town square on Sunday, waving Czech, EU and Ukrainian flags while chanting, "We don't want Russia here." The demonstration, organized by the group known as Million Moments for Democracy, warned that populist and pro-Russian parties could enter parliament after Friday's vote, a move that, they say, would endanger the Czech Republic's democratic direction. Protesters also held signs targeting former Prime Minister Andrej Babiš, whose ANO party currently leads in opinion polls. An ANO-led government is expected to reduce the country's support for Ukraine, develop closer ties with Hungary's government, led by Viktor Orban, and clash with Brussels on a number of key issues, including climate and migration. Organizers say they want to reach out to all those who are still undecided about whom to vote for, or whether they actually want to vote at all.